M.G. Leonard on writing. This episode, Author Bootcamp. So, you want to be an author? I've been an author now for 2 years. I say I've been an author for 2 years because that was when I signed my first publishing contract. But my first book, BEETLE Boy, was published in March 2016, and my second book, Beetle Queen, was published in April 2017. In that time, I have learnt a lot about the job of being an author, and I wish, right at the beginning, someone had given me a heads up about certain stuff. The equivalent of handover notes when you start a new job, or that I'd got to go to an author boot camp. I might have felt less overwhelmed, disappointed, enraged even, if someone had prepared me by putting some bald facts on the line right at the very beginning. So, here are a few things that have nothing to do with writing books that I wish someone had told me right at the start. Number 1. If a debut book sells over 2,000 copies, it's done okay. If you sell 10,000 copies, that's a success, and you'll definitely get to write a second book. On a standard contract, an author will be on a royalty of about £1 per book, minus whatever discount is offered to the shop who's selling it. And that's not an income that anyone can live on. Number 2. If you are going to write a book, try and make your story suitable for an international market. Because selling rights to other countries is an important part of helping to generate revenue. If you sell into more than 5 territories, you're doing very well. Number 3. If you manage to sell rights internationally, and I have sold rights to nearly 40 countries, do not expect to receive any of the monies from these deals for anything up to 2 or even 3 years. I even find it difficult to find out sales figures, and this seems to be an accepted, if frustrating, norm. Number 4. If you end up in a position where you can be a full-time author, you will not spend most of your time writing. Being a full-time author requires you to do a whole bunch of stuff, like making podcasts. I do school events, library visits, bookshop signings, conferences, panels, and festivals. Number 5. If you are shy and think that you're no good at delivering events, then you're going to have to do something about it. You cannot be an author and not be able to talk about your work. Go and see another author's events, someone who writes similar stuff to you. Get an idea of what they do and maybe what you could do. Number 6. You need to support other authors, and then you will be supported by other authors. This network is vital. You'll encounter authors at festivals and book launches, and you can really help each other because you can share your stories of being an author, and you'll find a lot of shared experience, fresh perspectives, and solidarity. It's a lonely business being an author, and the other authors all know how you feel and are going through what you are going through. And you must make sure that you read their books, else why should they read yours? Number 7. You do need to understand and use social media. This is not debatable. You will also need your own website. You will have to market and promote your books and events. You will have to do this every day. Different platforms host different communities. Twitter is where all the authors and publishing professionals hang out, and a good place to befriend other authors. Number 8. The market for books in this country, which is one of the biggest markets in the world, is relatively small when compared to the number of people who live here. It is a shock when you realise how few people read books for pleasure, and indeed how few bookshops there are in this country now. Number 9. You will have to do a lot of travelling. I thought that would be a pleasure and that I'd be able to write on trains and in hotel rooms, and I do, but in snatched moments. The travelling is gruelling. You'll need a good wheelie suitcase, and if you are a mum, as I am, you will have to get used to being away from your family. Number 10. You will have to write articles for blogs and magazines, usually unpaid. For Beetle Boy, which is a book of 55,000 words roughly, I wrote over 20,000 words worth of articles and blog posts, and I was not paid for any of them. Number 11. You will have to be able to write at least a book a year. Make sure you've got plenty of ideas and can write fast. Be disciplined. Get better. 12. No one gives you a magic list of stuff that you should be doing, or the people that you should be hooking up with. You have to find out that all on your own. And this is where social media is brilliant, because if you follow successful authors who are doing all the things that you aspire to do, they'll probably tweet about it, and you'll realise where the conferences are, when they are, what kind of things that you hope that you might be doing one day. So think about what genre of writing you're producing, who you're writing for. Are there specific festivals or conferences that take place annually that you should be going to? Who organises those things? How do you get on a panel? And will your publisher cover the cost? Number 13. Be prepared to turn up to events that are poorly attended, and for people to have not heard of your book or you. In fact, you should assume that this will always be the case, and then, if it's a busy event, you will be delighted. Number 14. There are thousands of books published each week. It is easy for your book to be washed away with the flood. You need to find a way for your book to get noticed. You have to be able to talk about it confidently. You must know why someone should read your book and be able to tell them so. Number 15. Everybody makes money out of your book before you do. The industry is set up in a way that does not respect or support the author. This is because so many people want to be one. So, rather brutally, no one is that concerned about whether you can pay the rent. There are other authors who will step into the breach the moment that you step out of it. Number 16. Authors usually get paid royalties twice a year, and they only have to be accounted to once a book has been published. And you will only receive your royalties if you have already recouped the advance that you were given when you signed your contract. Number 17. Advances don't come in one lump sum. They usually split into 2 or 3 parts. If it's a 3-part advance, you'll get a third on signature, a third when you've delivered a completed manuscript, and a third on publication. And that period of time can be anything up to 2 years. If it's a 50-50 advance, then you'll get 50% on signature and 50% on publication. Number 18. Do not give up your job until your royalty check is greater than your annual income. Writing is not something you should do for money. I can deliver school events which demand a fee, and last year I earned about £15,000 from events, which is how I get by. I could not survive on royalties alone. Number 19. Be charming and lovely to everybody you meet. Nobody owes you a living. Nobody has to buy or read your book. They don't have to review it, and they don't have to promote it. And be patient. It takes time to read a book. If you send your book to someone, please don't expect them to have read it in the next week. It can take anything up to 6 months for me to get through some of the books that I've been sent. Number 20. The concept of being an author is different from the reality of being an author. The only authors I know of who live that idyll of having a writer's shed and taking long walks, thinking creative thoughts, they only got to do it after a lucrative film deal. Oh, and don't get me started on how few films that are optioned actually ever get made. So, as you can see, being an author is not for the faint-hearted. It is the hardest job I have ever done. I have never worked so hard for so little money. But, and this is the important thing to hold on to, I wouldn't change a thing. I am my own boss. I get to tell stories and work with children. and I feel that I'm making a positive contribution to society. I am proud of my beetle-filled stories and astonished that Russian children are reading it in Russia. The work is not about the money. But we do all need money to live. You have been listening to M.G. Leonard, author of Beetle Boy and Beetle Queen. The wonderful music is by Sam Sparling. Thank you for listening, and keep writing.